Hello everyone, Gears here, and we are back in Meatypack for Minecraft 1.7.10. Today I wanted to talk about the most difficult boss battle, arguably in Minecraft, and that is the Chaos Guardian from Draconic Evolution. Now, I gotta be honest, I have struggled with this video quite a bit, and I do mean beyond the normal technical issues and, well, to be frank, the subpar commentary. I mean, it's like this video has been cursed. I mean, it's like all of what I just said times 10. And when I did get something usable out of it, I wasn't happy with the format at all. And I couldn't figure out what was bugging me. I thought about it and thought about it, and finally, um, I decided just I wasn't happy with the given format that I had chosen. It was, well, it the entire thing from beginning to end is a spoiler video for the battle. So how do you make a preparation video but not give spoilers? The answer really is you can't. But I come up with this. I came up with this idea. This video, it's going to be a whole video from beginning to end, but it's going to be divided into 4 segments. Segment 1 is the introduction, which is what we're doing right now. Segment 2 will be a review of the gear needed to prepare for the battle. Segment 3 will be my experience with the battle, everything that happened to me. And finally, segment 4 will be the steps you need to go through to find the Chaos Guardian and what to expect when you get there. So as you can see, as we progress in segments, the level of information increases as well. And each segment will be clearly defined so that anyone who watches the video can, it's up to them to decide when, okay, enough's enough. I don't want to hear anymore. I want to save the rest as a surprise. With that said, though, I do urge everyone to watch the video in its entirety, simply because that this is one of those boss battles that all the preparation in the world is, I mean, it's not going to have you like finding any great strategy to one-shot the Chaos Guardian. That's just simply not going to happen. Even with adequate preparation, you could find yourself dying a couple of times. So, with that said, this is the end of the introduction, segment 1. Segment 2 will commence shortly. Now, on to the gear that I crafted. Traditionally, you want to face the Chaos Guardian in Draconic armor. This is the last tier armor in Draconic Evolution. It's the next tier up from the Wyvern armor. Just like its predecessor, it can be modified using the upgrade modifier. Just drop the armor piece in, and as you can see, you upgrade the armor piece using Draconic cores. For each armor piece, you can use a max of 6 cores, and I have used the 3rd tier core, the Awakened core, for each of my upgrades. I dumped a small amount into RF capacity, and the majority of my cores I dumped into shield capacity and shield recovery. Additionally, I have fully enchanted each armor piece. Now, one of the abilities of full Draconic armor is the ability to fly. You can fly as long as you are in the full armor set without the assistance of other mods. But everything you do with Draconic equipment is at the cost of RF. So I was attempting to keep RF costs down by trying to modify as little as I can, or use as few of the abilities of the armor as I possibly could, including flight. So to have my flight dependent on something else, I crafted myself an angel ring. And also this serves as backup just in case somehow I do lose or use up my RF during battle. My flight will be sustained by the angel ring. Uh, with all Draconic equipment, there is the ability to modify it even further. It has a special configuration GUI that is accessible. The default key is C. Once you're in that menu, any compatible Draconic equipment will highlight itself as a button, and just simply click it, and you'll see the abilities that you can modify. With the leggings, one of the abilities is your movement speed. One of the abilities of the boots is uphill step assist. Now, instead of modifying these, again, remember what I said, I was attempting to keep RF costs down. So, in an effort to minimize the cost of RF to operate the armor, I decided to rely on other mods for some of my abilities. The Angel Ring from Extra Utilities for the flight, as forestated, but for my movement speed and my and for jump boost and uphill step assist, I decided to use Britannia. Britannia has 3 sashes. This is the Tier 2 sash called the Globetrotter sash, and this boosts my movement speed, gives me uphill step assist, gives me the boost my jump, as I stated, at the cost of mana. So I've got the max tier mana battery, which is the greater band of mana, and also I have the max tier of portable mana generation with me as well, which is the greater band of aura. Now, a small spoiler for segment 3. I had multiple encounters with the Chaos Guardian, and not in all of those encounters did I use the Draconic armor. Instead, for a couple of those encounters, I used my top tier Britannia armor, the Terra Steel armor. No flight ability with this armor either. That is dependent also on a flight ring, and no special movement speed or bonus modifiers with this either. This is also dependent, my movement is also dependent on the sash. I've also upgraded it fully with enchants, and well, traditionally the Terra Steel armor, as good as it is, it's traditionally not good enough to face the Chaos Guardian. I was able to do it, but more details on that in segment 3. Oh, another side note, this armor repairs itself with mana, so your mana will power that as in addition to your movement. All right, in each of my encounters, regardless the armor set I used, I did stick with the Draconic weaponry for my attack. For my ranged attack, I did use the Draconic bow, and I used the max number of awakened cores, dumping a small amount again into RF, one into draw speed and velocity, but most into base damage. Now, using the aforementioned configuration window, you can modify this even further. I could have taken the base damage up even further, but again, at the cost of RF, and I was trying to keep that cost down. So instead of modifying any of this, I decided instead to just fully enchant it as well. Now, for my melee attack, I relied on the top tier weapon in Draconic Evolution, and that's the Staff of Power. And as you can see, I have got it to 300 attack damage. Part of that reason is that I upgraded it with the max number of cores. This item takes 12 cores. Upgraded it fully with the max number of awakened cores, dumping 2 into RF capacity, but a majority of them, 10 of them, into attack damage. You can dump some into attack AoE, dig AoE, and dig depth, but with this one, I was fighting a singular opponent. I didn't see the need for this, and I was predominantly using this for combat. So I didn't care about these two. And to be honest, this mines and digs so fast that I could care less that it digs only one block at a time. It flies through almost anything that it mines. So honestly, I I didn't think this was worth it at all. Now, that's part of the reason that the attack is so high on this. The other is if you look closely at the enchantments, you'll notice that I have sharpness 10 on this weapon. That can be acquired legit in Meatypack. There is a way to do it, but again, that's one of those items I will cover in the next segment. Additionally, as you noticed, I in each piece and even my weaponry, I didn't invest a lot into RF storage. So as a result, I crafted myself a draconic flux capacitor and fully upgraded it as well to hold the maximum amount of RF. And it's configured to charge all of the armor, even if it's on, especially if it's on my character, and anything that's in my hotbar, i.e. my weaponry. And this will operate from your inventory. It doesn't need to be on your hotbar as well. Finally, the item that you will, I won't say need, but it can come in very handy, is the enhanced charm of dislocation. If you don't have this, there is a workaround, but honestly, I like the abilities of the charm of dislocation better than other teleport options. More details on that in the next segment. Okay, that is the equipment that I crafted for my battles. That is the end of segment 2. Segment 3 will begin shortly. Now, as promised, how I was able to get sharpness 10 on my draconic staff of power. First, you have to have been fortunate enough to acquire the divine sword as a drop. It comes from chance cubes, and when you get it, you will notice that the durability is almost 0. You'll need to repair it. Diamonds will and an anvil will work, but the easiest method I found to repair this is to simply use the advanced enchantment table. Once that is done, you're going to want to use one of the 2 disenchanters that are available in the pack. There is one from Mine Factory Reloaded. There is also one from Draconic Evolution. Either or will work for the next step in this process, and that is extracting or pulling off the sharpness 10 enchant onto a book. Now, this next step is very critical. When you get the book, you cannot apply this to any weapon using an anvil. If you attempt to use an anvil, it will step it down to sharpness 5. To be able to apply this to your draconic staff, you will need to use the draconic GUI by pressing C. Simply click the staff of power, and over to the left you'll see an inventory button. Click that, and for the draconic weapons and tools, you can access this GUI and apply your enchantments directly. Just simply drop them in the lower right hand slot, and it will apply the enchantment to the weapon and just store it as a book in an inventory slot. So with that, you can boost your weapon or your staff of power up to 300, possibly beyond, depending on how you configure it. My initial confrontations with the Chaos Guardian were in the draconic armor in the configuration that you saw in segment 2. But the problem that I encountered was that, well, you see, the Chaos Guardian attacks you in a barrage. I mean, he just hammers you like a machine gun. And what was happening was I would get hit with an initial attack, and it would slow my character's movement speed almost to a crawl. And it basically left me a sitting duck for the barrage of attacks that was behind it. So I ended up taking the full force of most of his attacks, and it drained my RF storage like crazy. Even though I had the upgrades poured into, well, most of it, the storage was in the flux capacitor you saw. And so, even though I had some on board, it still drained my RF considerably. So I decided to take an unconventional approach to the battle. Now, the mod maker intended you to face him with the draconic armor, because the Chaos Guardian deals void damage, or something very much like void damage, to players, which is devastating and bypasses just about all armor sets. So how I was able to cheese the system a little bit was my enchantments. The protection 4 on 2 of my armor pieces, and the blast protection and projectile protection on the other 2 helped a little bit, but the main enchantment that I think contributed was the Last Stand 2 enchantment that was on all 4 of my armor pieces. Last Stand 2 is an enchantment. I think Extra Utilities is the mod that gives us that enchant. And what it does is it, when you're down to 1 HP or half a heart, it will start subtracting from your experience pool to absorb the damage. So when I faced the Chaos Guardian, it was with about 200, 250 levels. And even though I spent a good chunk of the battle at half a heart, I was still able to stay in the battle, and I died quite a few less times than in the Draconic armor. And while I was flying around, I did not experience that slowdown effect from that initial attack, and I was able to dodge more effectively. Now, honestly, I don't know why it was that I encountered that slowdown. I may have made a few false assumptions when I configured that armor for the battle, and I should have dumped more into player movement using the armor, not dependent on so much on the Britannia sash. Perhaps I should have instead, well, that is one consideration would be, instead of dumping cores into onboard RF storage for the armor, instead of doing that, take those cores out of that, put them in other areas like protection and attack power, and bump up the attack power on, say, the bow, and perhaps and then craft additional flux capacitors. Say maybe 3, maybe even 4 of them, depending on how much resources it takes. But yeah, that would work as well. Additionally, there's other things that can be done as well. One thing I did not mention in segment 2 for preparation, because honestly I'd crafted this beforehand and didn't think about it, was containers. I maxed out the Tinker's Heart containers, giving me 2 additional rows of health. The other reason I didn't mention them is, honestly, I don't know how much of these helped. I mean, once your shields are down on the armor, and once you're down to the last stand, or using the last stand enchantment to survive the battle, it doesn't matter at that point anyway. And he takes your health down so fast. Honestly, I don't know how much this contributed. I want to say it contributed some. I mean, obviously more health is going to contribute. But honestly, I couldn't tell you if it was 1 hit, 2 hits, maybe even 3 hits that these absorbed. And something else I could have done, in addition to that, there are blood pendants in Britannia that you can use to store blood Britannia potions in. And instead of drinking a potion, you kind of put the potion mix in these pendants, and the pendants run consistently off your mana storage. I might have been able to add resistance 2, and that might have helped. Strength 2 would have boosted my attack. I may have even been able to gain some additional speed with speed 2, not sure. But that's a consideration as well. Additionally, I could have brought the Britannia potions. There are some that give you instant health. There are some that give you regeneration, absorption as well. And the Britannia potions are multi-use. This particular one, this absorption potion, is absorption 4, and it's for 6 uses. You can drink this 6 times. So that's an additional consideration as well. Definitely some different ways I could have approached this battle. And I may face the Chaos Guardian again a 3rd time with some of the configuration changes that I mentioned in the Draconic Armor set to see if I do any better. But if I don't, you're certainly welcome to try any and all of these configurations mentioned and let me know how you did. That is pretty much the end of segment 3. The 4th and final segment will begin shortly. To locate the Chaos Guardian, you're going to want to travel 10,000 blocks from the main end island in any of the cardinal directions. And the islands will reoccur every 10,000 blocks. So at 10,000, at 20,000, at 30,000, you will get a Chaos Island. Now, when you get there, the first thing you're going to want to do is establish a teleportation point, either using Journey Map, or my personal preference is the Enhanced Charm of Dislocation from Draconic Evolution. You can store multiple teleport points in it, and unlike Journey Map in this version of Minecraft, the Charm of Dislocation will work in between dimensions. So far superior to Journey Map, in my opinion. It just costs Ender Pearls. And it takes less time to use. I mean, all you have to do is navigate to it on your hotbar versus going through the Journey Map GUI. And so it's definitely worth doing for one reason I'll get into shortly. The other reason being the obvious one, and that's player deaths. This will allow you to immediately get back. So once you get to the Chaos Island, you'll notice that there's some familiarity about the Chaos Guardian. He looks a lot like the Ender Dragon. He looks basically he looks like a red Ender Dragon. But don't let him fool you. He is infinitely more powerful. And the arena that you're going to be fighting in is very similar to this one. There are pylons for you to hit and destroy, and before you can even attack him. But even the pylons are more powerful, and additionally, there are more of them. You have to take out the pylons. These pylons, they're not down for the count, unfortunately. I'll get more into that in a second as well. But not only are they considerably tougher, they can even protect themselves for a short period of time with a force field. So you'll have to deal with that as well. And in addition, the Chaos Guardian is much faster, so while you're trying to take out the pylons, you're going to have to dodge him. Now, this is the part where I go into the attack pattern, and that is, well, he has 3 attacks. One is that machine gun-like attack that I mentioned in the prior segment. The second attack is this very slow-moving green orb that it's not targeted at the player, but it's targeted at these pylons. You see, he can regenerate even if you take out a pylon or one of the healing pylons. It's not destroyed. It's just rendered inert. He can reignite these pylons with that attack. So you need to be wary of that and understand that you will need to take some of the pylons out again before you can continue your assault. The third attack he has is the other reason why you need a teleport point. He has this Ender Pearl based attack that it will teleport you to some random point in the end. So you're going to need a quick method of getting back. Again, the enhanced charm of dislocation is the route I recommend going, but you can get away with using journey map as well. Now, it would be just at this point, with knowing all this, it's just a process of shooting the Chaos Guardian, taking out the pylons, and rinse and repeat, and melee attacking him. With all of these that I mentioned, it's just a rinse and repeat cycle until you get him down to no health. And at that point, he will fly to the central point of the island and seemingly disappear in the ground. Now, there is a hidden chamber under the central point of the island. You dig down at the point that he flew into the ground, and you will notice a chamber. Housed in the chamber is a bunch of reinforced obsidian, which if you want to grab for your building, you certainly can. But don't... the main prize is the chaos crystals themselves, or excuse me, shards. There are 5 of them in a cluster, and you need to do something I need to make clear. You need to do, after you defeat the Chaos Guardian, you will need to do all the exploration you plan to around the island, mining resources, perhaps a little additional draconium, before you harvest these. Get everything you can and do everything you plan to do before harvesting these shards. Because once you mine and harvest the shards, it will begin a countdown sequence that will end in basically the thermonuclear destruction of the entire island, except for the outer bank, the fringe points, if you will. So, and that is, of course, other than, of course, the challenge of the battle, that is the main reason why you'd want to face the Chaos Guardian in the first place. You need all 5 Chaos Shards, a minimum of 5, to craft the top tier power generation in the game, and that is, of course, the Draconic Reactor. But that does it for this video, folks. That's all the spoilers I have to give. I hope I was able to help, and by all means, contact me via Discord, leave me a comment. Let me know your experience with the battle. Let me know if any of my summations or musings were off or need tweaking. So with that, thank you very much for watching, and take care.